What's going on, family? I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. 10 greatest black light heavyweights of all times. Jimmy Bivins is on this list. There's no question about it. He was born December 6, 1919 in Dry Branch, Georgia. He would die July 4th, 2012 in Cleveland, Ohio. Jimmy Bivins was 92 years of age at the time of his death. And I had the pleasure of meeting Jimmy Bivins. He would end his career with a total bouts of 112 fights, 86 wins, 31 knockouts, 26 losses, and 1 draw. But man, was he in there with some great fighters. Great fighters such as Curtis the Hatchet Man Shepard, Lee Q. Murray, and Jersey Joe Walcott, Ezzard Charles, and Archie Moore. Now, he was in the ring with Charlie Burley. He had a record of 15-0. And he would defeat him in 10 rounds. September 3rd, 1940 at the Hickory Park in Melville, Pennsylvania. And what was interesting about that was that Jimmy Bivins would turn professional in 1940. He turned professional with Ezzard Charles and Ike Williams, Willie Pep, and the great Sugar Ray Robinson. November 15th and December 2nd, 1940, he would win one and lose one to Anton Christopheridis. Anton Christopheridis would become a light heavyweight champion. He fought him at the Cleveland Public Hall in Cleveland Arena between March 5th, 1941 and December 1st, 1943. He had 21 bouts with Teddy Uros, Milo Bettina, Billy Seuss, Tammy Muriello, Bob Pastor, Lloyd Marshall, Ezzard Charles, Lee Q. Murray, and Joey Maxim. Oh, what a career this man had. Unbelievable. Now, in 1940, he would have several fights. He'd be in the ring with Paul Frazier at the Chicago Stadium, May 13th, 1940. And he would knock him out in 1 round. He would face Moses Brown, July 1st, 1940, and Pittsburgh, and he would defeat him in 6 rounds. He would take on Anton Christopheridis twice in 1940, November 15th and December 2nd. He would win one and lose one to Anton Christopheridis. Would also fight fighters such as Gus Lesnovich and Bob Pastor, Joey Maxim, Tammy Muriello, Lee Savoy, Ezzard Charles, Watson Jones, and Lloyd Marshall, Pat Valentino, Herbert Marshall, Lee Q. Murray, and Jack Buddy, Yancey Henry, and Johnny Haynes. Now, Johnny Haynes was a very underrated fighter. You see, Jimmy Bivins would spar with Harry Bobo and many other great black fighters during that time. But Jimmy Bivins came up in the mix with the Archie Moores and the Charlie Burleys, the Lloyd Marshalls, the entire Black Murderers Row. Willie Beam and Rusty Payne, Leonard Marrow, and Clarence Henry would be the new generation of Jimmy Bivins' time, and he would handle them as though he was their age. Shout out to Jimmy Bivins. What a great fighter he was. Like I stated, I had a pleasure of meeting Jimmy Bivins, and it was a thrill. Very polite young man. God bless Jimmy Bivins. He absolutely, positively deserves to be on this list. I actually placed Jimmy Bivins along with Eddie Charles and Archie Moore as part of Black Murderers Row, because Jimmy Bivins went through the struggles, as they all did. Imagine Holman Williams. Imagine Coco Kid. Imagine Charlie Burley and Lloyd Marshall and Ezzard Charles, Archie Moore, Joe Louis, Ike Williams, Bob Montgomery, Bo Jack. Oh my God, Jackie Wilson. Unbelievable. I remember Joe Brown, meeting him. He was something else. 12 title defenses before that record was broken by Roberto Duran. But Jimmy Bivins would train, and he would fight in some of the most popular gyms and arenas. So shout out to Jimmy Bivins. Let's take a look at a fight between Jimmy Bivins and Ezzard Charles. Now we're looking at Ezard Charles with the white trunks and the great Jimmy Bivins in the dark trunks. And watch how these men handle each other. You're talking about two of the greatest fighters of all times. Jimmy Bivins will always keep up the jab. He's a very well-schooled textbook fighter. Nothing fancy, but he is a professional in that ring. Ezard Charles had learned his craft with a record of 42-0 as an amateur. He won all the championships that an amateur fighter could win. And he turned professional with the ring greats, along with Ray Robinson, Willie Pep, Ike Williams, and Ezard Charles. I just want you to see some of the textbook moves that are so necessary on inside work. Ezard Charles is just being a little frustrated right now because he can't have his way. And Jimmy Bivins will stay close to him at times, tie his arms up as you can see. And it's little things that he is doing that is befuddling Ezard Charles. And many have Ezard Charles as the greatest light heavyweight who would never win a championship. But I have Jimmy Bivins right along there with him. The main black heavyweights, light heavyweights, I should say, during that time. In fact, the main light heavyweights at that time was Ezard Charles, Jimmy Bivins, Lloyd Marshall, and Archie Moore. Now, you had Billy Conn, who refused to fight Archie Moore. He was in that era. Anton Christopheridis and Gus Lesnovich, Joey Maxim, many of them were there. But you're looking at two of the best. And it's very hard to get fights like that today. But these men would fight each other many times in 1 year. When I speak of these men, not specifically Charles and Bivins, but men in that era would face each other many times in 1 to 2 years. And that's just how it was. And that's why I always state it's a different time. The gloves were different. The rings were different. The shoes that you wore were different. That's why you had rosin boxes when you would get into the ring. Because you had to get grip in your shoes. Everything was different. And a lot of the fighters today would be 8-round to 6-round fighters. Why? Because you had more arenas during that time. In New York, you had Broadway Arena, St. Nicholas Arena, Sunnyside Garden, the Eastern Parkway Arena. You had St. Nicholas Arena. You had so many places where you can fight. Of course, the Garden, but there were many more of the athletic clubs. And then you had so many gyms that you could train in. Many gyms all over New York. And I'm just talking New York, not Chicago. I'm not speaking of Detroit. I'm not speaking of Pittsburgh. They had their own set of gyms. So you can imagine the amount of fighters that you had during that time and the men that you had to compete against. And great fighters such as this. And that's why eras are important. So you can justify in each era how well that fighter was. Because if you would put fighters today at that time, their names would not be known. I always use the example of Rocky Castellani. He was a very good fighter, but a lot of people don't know who he is. Because there were so many fighters during that time. So many places where he could fight. And if you fought enough times, you would lose fights. Oh, look at these jabs that both men are exchanging. Oh, beautiful. Ezard Charles with the 1-2 combination. He leans in, and as does Jimmy Bivins. Jimmy Bivins knows exactly what to do in the heat of an exchange. That's a pro. Great fighter with both Ezard Charles and Jimmy Bivins. Let's take a look at another fight with Jimmy Bivins. Now here we take a look at Jimmy Bivins to your left. And Charlie Doc Williams with the white trunks to your right. And you can see how Jimmy Bivins handles the longer reach Charlie Doc Williams. Doc Williams was a phenomenal fighter. And Bivins is giving him all kinds of problems because he understood how to handle himself in that ring. Look at that overhand right from the outside. Follows up with a left hook and a jab. He constantly presses his man. And as you can see, Doc Williams comes back with a jab because that was with the tools that you were taught during that time. You didn't go into a fight without knowing how to use a jab. But the shorter man in Jimmy Bivins knows how to elude the jab and get inside himself. As he picks and parries off the jab, he comes around him with his left jab as well and then reaches him with an overhand right. That was a signature punch of Jimmy Bivins. It was a joy watching Jimmy Bivins fight. What a hell of a fighter he was. Now, during those days, the commercials that you had, the fights were sponsored by Patch Blue Ribbon and Gillette Razor as well. You had Wednesday night fights and Friday night fights. Now, Doc Williams pulls Jimmy Bivins in, but he can't tie him up for long because Jimmy Bivins knows how to escape from those kind of encounters. As you see the left jab, Jimmy Bivins consistently stalks Doc Williams with the jab. Doc Williams is very elusive, and he's aware of what's happening in that ring. So you have two well-schooled fighters in that ring. And Jimmy Bivins found himself in those situations every fight, because every fighter he fought. Now, of course, there were in-between fights, but most of them were well-schooled fighters. Both men, very good fighters, very good elusive fighters. Bivins consistently stalks Doc Williams, and he comes behind an overhand right. He uses his jab, and he works the body on the inside. Great fighter was Jimmy Bivins. Let's take a look at another fight between Jimmy Bivins, and we'll look at him and Archie Moore. Now we're looking at Archie Moore with the white trunks and Jimmy Bivins with the dark trunks. And Archie Moore does a lot of feinting. And he puts his hands up in somewhat of a defensive mechanism. Jimmy Bivins just goes about his work. He consistently jabs as Archie Moore does, while Bivins uses his footwork and he moves from side to side. Ties his man up on the inside. And he knows how to dictate the pace of the fight. So once again, I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Shout out to Jimmy Bivins, a phenomenal and underrated light heavyweight. Brilliant fighter he was. Thanks for watching. He is one of 10 greatest light heavyweights that were black fighters on this video series that I'm doing here. And I just want you to appreciate these fighters, as I do. Peace. I wanted to show you the knockout that Archie Moore would give Harold Johnson. I didn't get to show you that on the Archie Moore video. Oh, what a beautiful combination that was. Archie Moore and Harold Johnson. Amazing. All right, thanks for watching. Ruby Goldstein steps in and says that's enough.